Welcome to Bittensor Weekly, your source of truth for everything happening in the Bittensor ecosystem. I am your host, and this is episode 12, May 21st, 2026. This week, the Foundation took the floor on conviction and the roadmap. Cacheon shipped after a rebrand from Taohash, Compelle quietly took a deregistered slot, Handshake left, and the most important thing about conviction is something Const said directly that almost nobody is reporting correctly. Let us get into it. Story 1. The Conviction Reframe. Today, May 21st, the OpenTensor Foundation hosted a live Discord discussion on conviction, root yield, and the roadmap. This came after weeks of community confusion about whether conviction had even shipped. Here is what we now know with high confidence, sourced from Const's own May 15th Novelty Search appearance, an independent Manifold Lab Substack analysis published the same day, and a separate Simply TAO explainer published the same day. First, on what conviction actually is. Const described it during that call as a defensive tool meant to help teams guard against what he called nefarious or spurious attacks. Quote from him directly, "In basically every instance, it's been impossible for the team to quickly and easily defend any, let's say, nefarious or spurious attack." He never framed it as a competitive market for subnet ownership. The framing most of the ecosystem has been using is wrong. The mechanism. Conviction applies only to subnets at least 1 year old. To challenge an owner, someone has to accumulate 10% of the outstanding stake and lock it publicly for roughly 2 months. The owner can match that lock instantly using the owner key and immediately register maximum conviction with no delay. Other holders can pool conviction behind the owner. The practical effect: most subnets will sit below the 10% threshold and the mechanism stays dormant. Now on activation status. As of this recording, the latest tagged release on the official OpenTensor Subtensor GitHub remains version 3.3.15-402 from May 8th. The mainnet deployment pull request, number 2643, which bundles all 4 conviction code merges, is still listed as open, not merged. The conviction code is staged, queued, and almost certainly running on DevNet, but we cannot call it officially live on mainnet under our verification standard. Most secondary sources have called it live. The primary source disagrees.
Story 2. TAO Flow V2 is the lever that actually matters. TAO Flow V2 is not a new emission system. It is a tweak to the existing TAO Flow model that has been live since November 2025. Const's exact words on May 15th. The specifics of that tweak are that we will be subtracting the net subsidy from the net flow. In practice, this means subnets propped up purely by chain liquidity injection lose emission share. Subnets with real external demand keep theirs. Const also confirmed a related change. Subnet owners will gain the ability to voluntarily turn off their own emissions, returning them to the network, rather than continuing to extract while sitting idle. On the much-discussed Root APY removal, Const raised it on the same call but explicitly said it is not coming. His exact words: "This is in conversation, this is not coming out next week. This will be something that is discussed ad infinitum by the economically minded people in Bittensor. This is a conversation starter, not a proposal." Story 3. Cacheon shipped after a Taohash rebrand. Subnet 14 went live on mainnet on May 19th, as Xavier from the team committed during Const's Novelty Search appearance 4 days earlier. The subnet used to be Taohash, which was an attempt to use Bittensor incentives for Bitcoin mining. The team pivoted to AI inference optimization. Miners submit Docker containers running their own inference servers. Validators benchmark them on dedicated 8 GPU H200 pods. Winner takes all. At mainnet launch, TAO Media reported 13 inference servers in active competition. Xavier also said on the call that John from Shoots had messaged the team saying Shoots would prefer to consume Cacheon's optimization output rather than build their own. That is a real subnet-to-subnet commerce signal, though attributed as a relayed Discord message, not a live endorsement. Story 4. Compelle quietly took the Hermes slot. Subnet 82 went live as Compelle on May 8th. The subnet runs structured debates between AI models to produce higher quality outputs. The slot came open when Hermes was deregistered in late April after the team publicly announced closure. Manifold Labs reports 4,700 debate games in Compelle's first week, though we have not independently verified that figure. Story 5. Handshake left. Per TAO Media on May 18th, Handshake 58 announced it will exit Bittensor Subnet 58. The slot is now listed as parked on Backprop Finance. Team's verbatim statement: "We fully believe in Bittensor and the infrastructure we have built. However, we do not believe we are best positioned to maximize the unique incentive mechanisms." No dump, no drama. Handshake was building payment infrastructure for autonomous AI agents using USDC micropayments on Polygon. CEO Harry Jackson based in London. The slot opens for a new team.
The market TAO is trading at $285 per MEX, with a 7-day change at negative 6.6%. Market cap, roughly $3.1 billion. Circulating supply, 10.9 million TAO. Staking ratio, around 68%. Daily emissions, 3,600 TAO post-December halving. Active subnets, 128. Worth noting, the market pulled back this week even as the foundation went public on the roadmap. The selling is not about the protocol. It is about positioning. This week's spotlight is Cacheon. The reason is not the mainnet launch itself, it is the rebrand pattern. Cacheon used to be Taohash. Taohash was a Bitcoin mining on Bittensor experiment that did not find product market fit. Rather than abandon the slot, the team kept the registration, kept the alpha token, and pivoted. New thesis, same network position. They went on Novelty Search with Const on May 15th, walked through the new design, committed to a May 19th mainnet, and hit it. The new design. Miners submit Docker containers with their own inference server implementations. Validators benchmark them on identical 8 GPU H200 pods. The metrics are time to first token and tokens per second throughput. Winner take all on each evaluation epoch. Xavier said on the call that 26 miners had signed up within 4 days of testnet launch. At mainnet, media reports 13 inference servers actively competing. The longer-term goal, per Xavier, is to deploy optimized kernels to enterprises and to other subnets. The Chutes integration discussion is the early signal that this could work as subnet-to-subnet commerce. The headline that matters: a subnet that was failing rebranded and shipped a working network within weeks. That is the alpha layer working as designed. Slot turnover without slot abandonment.
3 themes this week. First, the Conviction Reframe changes how you should read subnet risk. If Const's defensive framing is right, the upgrade does not threaten incumbents at the top. Mature subnets with active owners and any coordinated holder base will not be contested. The mechanism mostly clears slots where teams have effectively walked away without deregistering. Adjust your subnet risk model accordingly. Second, TAO Flow V2 is where the real selection pressure shows up. When Shane's subsidy stops counting as flow, subnets that have been surviving on liquidity injection alone lose emission share. If you are holding alpha in subnets that cannot demonstrate real external demand, that is the position to evaluate first. Third, the rebrand and ship pattern is now proven. Cacheon did it. Compelle effectively did it by taking a deregistered slot. The mechanism for restarting a stuck subnet rather than killing it gives the ecosystem more shots on goal. Watch other underperforming subnets for similar pivots. For context, per Manifold Labs the week of May 15th, the top alpha movers were Ditto Subnet 118 up 128%, Cacheon up 37%, Bitsec.ai up 23%, Niam up 22%, and BabbleBit up 22%. These are week-over-week figures from last week, not today. The subnet alpha market is moving even when TAO itself is range-bound. If you are sitting in Root earning passive yield, you are missing the rotation. That is it for this week. Foundation talked, conviction is defensive, mechanics are clear, activation still unconfirmed. TAO Flow V2 is the real lever. Cacheon shipped, Compelle quietly took over, Handshake left, Root APY is a conversation, not a proposal. If you found this useful, subscribe and hit the bell. I will see you next Saturday.